I'm sharing this to get it off my chest and maybe find some clarity. It all started at my parents' backyard barbecue during our annual family reunion. My wife Jenna and I had been married for 5 years. We met in college, and if I'm being honest, I thought we were a solid couple. Sure, we had our ups and downs, what marriage does, but I always believed that we were in it together. At least I thought I did. The reunion was supposed to be a fun-filled day. The smell of grilled burgers wafted through the air, kids were running around with water balloons, and laughter echoed in every corner of the yard. I was feeling good, surrounded by family and friends. But somewhere in the back of my mind there were small nagging signs that things weren't quite right with Jenna. She had been acting a bit distant lately, more distracted with her phone and less enthusiastic about our usual banter. I brushed it off as stress from work. I mean, we all have our moments, right? Then there was the weirdness with my younger cousin, Kyle. He's 25, good-looking, and a bit of a charmer, always the life of the party. I noticed Jenna laughing a little too hard at his jokes, leaning in closer to him than she did with anyone else. It didn't sit right with me, but I tried to shake it off. Jealousy can mess with your head, so I focused on the barbecue instead. Fast forward to later that night. Jenna and I had a few drinks as the party wound down. She was in good spirits, which made me feel a bit better about everything. We were cleaning up when I got a text from Kyle asking if I had seen Jenna's phone. I thought it was odd, but I told him I hadn't. He replied, "She seems really into tonight, a little too into it." My gut tightened at the implication, but I brushed it off again, telling myself I was overthinking things. The following week, I noticed more changes. Jenna started coming home later from work, claiming she was busy with projects. She'd get defensive if I asked about her day, shooting me a look that said, "Why are you so suspicious?" I felt like I was losing my grip on reality, but I tried to be supportive, hoping it was just a phase. The real bombshell dropped unexpectedly. One evening, while Jenna was in the shower, I decided to grab her phone to check the time. I thought nothing of it until I saw a message notification pop up from some guy named Jake. I froze, my heart racing as I read the message. It was flirty, definitely not work-related. I had a sinking feeling in my stomach. I opened the message thread and my worst fears were confirmed. They were exchanging explicit messages, and it became clear that this wasn't just a one-time thing. They were meeting up and getting intimate. I felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. My hands shook as I put the phone down, trying to process what I just found. I knew I had to confront her, but the thought terrified me. The shower turned off and I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. This was going to change everything. When she walked into the room, her hair still damp, I didn't waste time. I blurted out what I had discovered, my voice trembling with emotion. I watched her face go pale. Then her expression hardened. "You went through my phone," she spat, her defenses rising instantly. I couldn't believe it. The betrayal was staring her right in the face, and she was more concerned about my invasion of privacy. "Jenna, you're cheating on me," I shouted, anger spilling out of me. She initially started with the classic defense, "It's not what it seems." But as I pressed her, she floundered, throwing out excuses that only dug her deeper into a hole. I was just confused. "You've been distant too." The audacity made my skin crawl. I felt a whirlwind of emotions, anger, betrayal, sadness. It was like a storm brewing inside me, and I didn't know how to navigate it. I wanted to scream, to throw things, to make her feel the pain that was coursing through me. Instead, I just stood there, watching her backtrack and lie through her teeth, trying to manipulate me into thinking it was my fault. I realized then that I needed to gather my thoughts. This wasn't just about her betrayal, it was about what I wanted moving forward. I had to make a choice, and that was going to be difficult. The immediate aftermath of the confrontation was surreal. Jenna's excuses echoed in my head like a broken record. How could she twist the situation so expertly? I felt like I was living in some alternate universe where up was down and betrayal was justified. I spent the next few days in a haze, oscillating between anger and despair. I couldn't eat or sleep properly. My mind was a battlefield, replaying moments from our relationship, trying to find the signs that I had missed. The days turned into a blur of work and sleepless nights. My colleagues must have noticed something was off, but I brushed off their concerns with vague answers. I didn't want to share the chaos that had erupted in my personal life. Every time I closed my eyes, I replayed the images of her laughing with Kyle at the barbecue, her flirtatious text messages, the way she had dismissed my concerns about her behavior. Every memory cut deeper than the last. I thought about reaching out to Kyle, but what would that accomplish? I couldn't confront my younger cousin without it getting messy. The last thing I wanted was to disrupt the family dynamic. But then again, blood ties dissolved in betrayal, didn't they? The more I thought about it, the more I realized how intertwined our lives had become. One night, I decided to confront the reality of the situation head-on. I needed to know how deep this rabbit hole went. I started by going through Jenna's phone again, looking for more evidence. My heart raced as I scrolled through her messages, and that feeling of unease returned as I read more flirtations, more planning. The messages between Jenna and Jake made it clear that this was not just a passing fling. They had been sneaking around for months. I stumbled upon a message that suggested they had a rendezvous planned for the weekend. My gut tightened. It was the same weekend my parents had invited us over for dinner. The irony of it all struck me hard. She would be spending time with my family while lining up a secret encounter with another man. I couldn't allow this to go on. I needed a plan. As the weekend approached, I found myself devising a strategy. I could confront her again and demand the truth, but I wanted to catch her in the act. I wanted her to see the full consequences of her actions, not just from me but from the people around her. I decided to invite my parents and my cousin over for dinner, making it a big family affair. I wanted to create an environment where her lies would be exposed. The day of the dinner, I kept my composure. I felt like an actor in my own life, playing the role of the dutiful husband while my heart was heavy with betrayal. When Jenna walked into the room, she looked beautiful, just as she always did. But instead of admiration, I felt resentment bubbling beneath the surface. She was almost too cheerful, chatting with my mom and helping with the cooking. I could hardly focus on the meal as my mind was racing with thoughts of how I would reveal her deceit. After dinner, I orchestrated a casual game night. I proposed a game of charades, something lighthearted to keep the mood up. But deep down, I had a different agenda. I kept glancing at Kyle, who was sitting across from me, oblivious to the storm brewing. I could see Jenna getting more relaxed, laughing at Kyle's antics, completely unaware of my growing frustration. During one of the rounds, I saw my chance. I pulled Jenna aside, feigning a romantic moment. "Can I talk to you for a second?" I asked, leading her to a quieter corner of the living room. I could feel my heart racing as I prepared to confront her again. "Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice laced with concern that felt disingenuous. I could see her glancing back toward the group, anxious about missing any of the fun. "Not really," I replied. "I think we need to talk about Jake. You know, the guy you've been texting." Her expression changed instantly, panic flashing across her face. "Who told you about that?" she stammered, her tone shifting from concern to defensive in a split second. "No one had to tell me, Jenna. I saw the messages. You're cheating on me, and you have been for months. Do you really think you can keep lying?" I felt a rush of adrenaline, fueled by the need to expose her. Her eyes widened, and I could see her scrambling for a response. "Oh, come on. You're really going to bring this up now, in front of everyone?" I shook my head, feeling a mix of pity and anger. "You think I want to do this? This is your doing. You put me in this position." Suddenly, I saw Kyle approaching us, laughter fading as he sensed the tension. "Everything cool over here?" he asked, his eyes darting between us. Jenna glanced at him, a flicker of panic crossing her face as I prepared myself for the next step. "Yeah, Kyle, everything's just peachy," I said through gritted teeth. "Just having a heart-to-heart about how my wife has been lying to me." I could see the realization dawn on Kyle's face, and it felt good to know I wasn't the only one who would be affected by this revelation. In that moment, I knew this was just the beginning of the fallout. I had no idea how this evening would unravel, but I was ready to face whatever consequences lay ahead. My resolve hardened. I wasn't going to let her manipulate the situation any longer. I deserved better than to be used as a pawn in her game. The tension in the room escalated faster than I could have anticipated. Kyle's face turned from surprise to concern, and he looked from me to Jenna, confused. "What's going on?" he asked, glancing between us, clearly sensing the storm brewing. "Why don't you ask her, Kyle?" I shot back, my voice sharper than I intended. "I think she has a few things to explain." The anger bubbling inside me felt justified. I wasn't going to let her play the victim anymore. Jenna's eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape route, but there was none. This was her reckoning. "Don't make this a big deal, please," she said, trying to regain control of the situation. Her voice was shaky, but there was an edge to it that said she wasn't ready to back down. "You're overreacting." Overreacting. I couldn't contain the incredulity in my voice. "You've been sending explicit texts to another guy. How is that not a big deal?" I felt the weight of my emotions crashing down on me, and I was done holding back. Kyle's expression shifted from confusion to realization. "What? Jenna, is that true?" His voice held disbelief, and I could see him struggling to wrap his head around the situation. I watched Jenna's facade begin to crumble. "It's not like that." "Then how is it?" I interrupted, my heart racing as I pressed her. "Tell him the truth, Jenna. You owe him that much." It was strange to see her squirm under the weight of her lies, and I felt a sense of vindication even as my heart ached. "Just give me a second," she snapped, her eyes wide with panic. "It's complicated. You wouldn't understand." "Complicated how?" Kyle pressed, his confusion turning into anger. "You've been married, Jenna. You made a commitment." I was relieved to see Kyle taking my side, even if it felt strange to have to rely on him in this moment. I needed allies, and he was unwittingly stepping into the role. Jenna's head whipped around, and I could almost see her calculating her next move, her mind racing to devise some escape from the truth. "Maybe I just wanted a little excitement in my life," she finally admitted, her voice quieter now, but the defiance was still simmering beneath the surface. The words hung in the air like a heavy fog. "Things have been so boring between us. I just wanted to feel something again. It didn't mean anything." "Didn't mean anything," I echoed, incredulous. "You think cheating is just a casual fling? You think it's okay to betray the person who's been there for you through everything?" I could feel the hurt morphing into rage, and I struggled to keep it in check. "Look, let's just talk about this later," she said, attempting to regain control, but it was too late. The truth was out, and there was no putting the lid back on this explosive situation. "I think there's a lot to talk about right now," I replied, my voice firm. "Like how many other exciting things you've been doing behind my back." I could see her wince at the accusation, and it fueled my anger further. At that moment, my parents walked in, oblivious to the chaos that had unfolded. My mom's cheerful demeanor faded as she looked at the tension between us. "Is everything okay, honey?" she asked, concern etched on her face. "Not even close," I replied, my tone biting. "Jenna's been having an affair with another man, and now everyone is just supposed to pretend like we're still a happy family." The room fell silent. My mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. My dad stepped forward, his expression shifting from confusion to concern. "What's going on here?" he asked, looking between us. "Dad, Jenna has been cheating on me," I said, feeling a rush of emotion as the truth spilled from my lips. "With Jake. She's been lying to us all." Jenna's face turned crimson, and for a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy for her. But it quickly faded as I remembered the betrayal. I had no time for her shame. "You need to tell them the truth," I urged, my voice steady. She opened her mouth to protest, but realized there was no escaping this anymore. She stammered, trying to find the right words. "I didn't mean for it to happen this way." My dad's expression shifted from shock to disappointment. "Jenna, how could you do this to my son?" His voice was stern, the authoritative tone of a father who had witnessed betrayal in a way no parent should. "I was just trying to find myself again." She protested, but her excuses fell flat in the face of my parents' disapproval. "Find yourself? By cheating on your husband," my mom said, shaking her head in disbelief. "Do you even understand the damage you've caused?" The weight of their disappointment hung heavy in the air. I could see Jenna struggling to maintain her composure, but the facade was cracking. "I never wanted to hurt you," she finally said, her voice breaking. "I just got caught up in everything." "Caught up?" I echoed, rage coursing through me again. This isn't just a mistake, Jenna. This is a choice you made over and over again. Kyle stood silently, his expression unreadable. I could sense his discomfort, but at the same time I felt a strange camaraderie with him. We were both victims here. The tension was unbearable, and I finally turned to Jenna, my heart heavy. I can't do this anymore. You've broken my trust, and I don't know if I can ever get it back. I had to say it out loud to give voice to the turmoil inside me. She opened her mouth to protest, but I raised my hand to stop her. No more excuses, I need time to think. With that, I turned away, needing to distance myself from the chaos. I felt like I was walking through a fog, surrounded by the shattered remains of my marriage. The betrayal was too fresh, too raw, and I knew I had to find a way to move forward, even if that meant letting go of the life I once thought I had. As I stepped outside into the cool night air, I took a deep breath, trying to clear my mind. I had a long road ahead, and I needed to figure out what that would look like. The world felt different now, and I had to come to terms with the reality of my situation, one that was going to change everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and family. I stepped outside into the night, letting the cool air wash over me as I tried to regain my composure. The chaos inside was overwhelming, and I needed to find some clarity. I could still hear the muffled voices from the living room as my parents confronted Jenna. The betrayal was a bitter pill to swallow, and I felt like I had been blindsided by a hurricane. As I paced back and forth in the yard, my mind raced. The image of Jenna flirting with Kyle at the barbecue replayed in my head like a broken record. I had always trusted her, believed that our marriage was built on a solid foundation of love and respect. But now, every moment we shared felt tainted. The laughter, the inside jokes, even the quiet moments spent together felt like a cruel joke. I pulled out my phone, contemplating my next steps. I thought about calling a friend, someone to vent to, but I quickly dismissed the idea. I didn't want to burden anyone with my problems, especially when I was still processing everything myself. Instead, I decided to take a drive, to clear my head and find some distance from the chaos that had engulfed my life. I drove aimlessly through the streets, the headlights illuminating the dark road ahead. I thought about my childhood, family gatherings, and how they had always been a source of joy. Now, everything felt tainted. I couldn't shake the feeling that my family had been shattered, and I didn't know how to pick pieces. Halfway through the drive, I found myself parked outside a familiar coffee shop. It was a place Jenna and I used to visit together, a cozy spot with great pastries and warm lattes. I sat in the parking lot for a few minutes, battling the urge to go inside and relive those memories. Instead, I just sat there, immobilized by the weight of my thoughts. Eventually, I pulled out my phone and opened Jenna's messages again. I read through the exchanges between her and Jake, feeling sick to my stomach. Her words were laced with excitement and flirtation, and it made me feel like a fool. I had been so oblivious, so trusting, and now it felt like I was the punchline of a cruel joke. I could feel the anger rising again. I wasn't just hurt, I was furious. I wanted to confront Jake to make him understand the pain he had caused. After all, he was the one who had crossed boundaries, who had taken advantage of my trust. I pulled up his number, hesitating for a moment. Part of me wanted to shout at him, to demand answers, but another part knew that it would change anything. Instead, I took a deep breath and decided I needed to talk to Kyle. Despite the fact that he was involved in this mess, he had played an innocent role in all of this. He was family, and I needed to know what he knew. I texted him, asking if we could meet up to talk. He responded almost immediately, agreeing to meet at the coffee shop in 30 minutes. When I arrived, I spotted him at a corner table, looking uncomfortable. He looked up as I approached, and I gestured for him to join me. "Thanks for meeting me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady as I sat down. "Yeah, man, I can't believe everything that went down tonight," he said, running a hand through his hair. I had no idea about any of this. I mean, Jenna seemed different lately, but I didn't think anything like this was happening. I nodded, feeling a mix of gratitude and frustration. "I appreciate you being honest with me. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I need to understand what's been going on." Kyle looked at me with sincerity. "I wouldn't have thought Jenna would cheat on you. You guys always seemed so solid together. Solid until she decided that a little excitement was worth tearing apart our lives. I replied bitterly. It's just so hard to wrap my head around it. I trusted her with everything. I can't even imagine, he said, looking down at his coffee. I feel like shit for being part of this family dynamic. I never meant for it to get so complicated. I'm sorry, man. I appreciated his apology, but it didn't change the fact that I felt betrayed by both him and Jenna. I just need to know how deep this goes. Have you seen them together? Did she ever say anything to you? Kyle shook his head. No, I swear, she never mentioned anything to me about it. I thought she was just busy or stressed. If I had known, I would have said something to you. Why do you think she was doing it? I asked, my voice trembling slightly. What could possibly make her throw everything away? Kyle hesitated, choosing his words carefully. I don't know, man. Maybe she felt unfulfilled or wanted something different. It's no excuse, but sometimes people make dumb choices when they're unhappy. Unhappy, I scoffed. We had our issues, sure, but I thought we were working on them together. This isn't something you just get to decide unilaterally. I get it, Kyle said, raising his hands in a placating gesture. I really do. You deserve better than this. If you want, I can confront her. I'll talk to her about it. I appreciated the offer, but I knew it wouldn't do any good. No, that's not necessary. I need to handle this myself. I just have to figure out what that looks like. We sat in silence for a moment, both lost in our thoughts. I looked out the window, watching people pass by as life continued on without a care for my shattered reality. I felt so small in a world that just kept spinning. Finally, I broke the silence. I think I might need to take a break from Jenna. Maybe even separate for a while. I can't keep pretending like everything is fine when it's not. Kyle nodded slowly, understanding the weight of the decision. That sounds like a good plan. You need to take care of yourself first. I appreciated his support, even if it felt strange to lean on my younger cousin during such a tumultuous time. Thanks for being here, Kyle. I know all of this is complicated, but I'm glad you're on my side. Always, man. Family sticks together, right? He said, giving me a reassuring smile. I left the coffee shop feeling a little lighter. The conversation had helped me process some of the emotions swirling in my head. I still had a long way to go, but at least I was starting to form a plan. I would confront Jenna, but this time it would be on my terms with clarity about what I wanted moving forward. As I drove home, I knew that the next few days would be crucial. I had to find a way to reclaim my life and protect what little dignity I had left. I had been betrayed, but I wouldn't let it define me. I was ready to take control of my future, no matter how painful that journey might be. When I got home, Jenna was sitting on the couch looking lost in thought. The atmosphere was heavy, charged with the unspoken words that hung between us like a thick fog. I took a moment to collect myself before walking in, knowing I had to be firm and clear about what I wanted. Can we talk? I asked, my voice calm but steady. I didn't want to let my emotions overwhelm me again, not this time. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. I'm so sorry for what happened. I never meant for things to escalate like this. There was a hint of desperation in her voice, and I could see she was trying to regain some semblance of control over the situation. Sorry doesn't cut it, Jenna, I replied, my tone firm. You've betrayed my trust, and you need to understand that's a huge deal. We can't just pretend this didn't happen. I know, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I've been a complete idiot. I was just feeling so lost and confused. You have to believe me. I do believe that you're confused, I interrupted, feeling the anger bubbling up again. But you had a choice. You chose to cheat. That's not something you can just gloss over. She looked down at her hands, tears spilling onto her cheeks. I know, I just didn't know how to handle everything. I thought maybe a little excitement would help me feel alive again. Alive, I echoed, incredulous at her reasoning. You could have talked to me. You could have come to me with your feelings. Instead, you went behind my back and sought comfort in another man. That's not just a mistake, it's a betrayal. I know, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I can't explain why I did it. I regret it every day. Regret isn't enough, I said, my heart heavy. I need to figure out what I want moving forward. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about trust, and right now I feel like I can't trust you. Please just give me another chance, she pleaded, her voice breaking. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on me. I don't think I can give you another chance right now. I need space to think about everything, to figure out if this is something I want to salvage. I can't be in a relationship where I'm constantly wondering if you're being honest with me. Are you saying you want to separate? She asked, her eyes widening in disbelief. I think it's for the best, I said, feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. I need to take a step back and figure out what I really want. I can't keep pretending that everything is fine when it's not. Her expression shifted from desperation to panic. Where will you go? What will you do? I'll figure it out, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. I need time to breathe, to process everything that's happened. I can't do that here, not while you're around. Jenna nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. I understand, even if it hurts. I just wish you'd let me fix this. Maybe it's too late for fixing things, Jenna, I replied, my voice softening slightly but firm. I need to protect myself. I can't keep investing in a relationship that feels broken. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see the realization settling in for both of us. This was it, the turning point in our relationship. She had made choices that had led us to this moment, and now we both had to live with the consequences. I'll pack a bag, I said, finally breaking the silence. I'll stay at a hotel or something for a while. I just need to get away from all of this. Okay, she whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll give you space. I just hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me someday. I don't know if I can, I replied honestly, my heart aching at the thought. But I'll think about it. Right now I need time to sort everything out. As I walked to the bedroom, I felt like I was walking through a fog. Everything felt surreal. It was like I was in a bad dream that I couldn't wake up from. I could hear her quiet sobs behind me, but I didn't turn back. I had made my decision, and it felt necessary, no matter how painful it was. Packing my things felt like a chore. I moved the motions, grabbing clothes, toiletries, and a few essentials. Each item felt heavier than the last, a reminder of the life I was leaving behind, at least temporarily. I glanced at the framed photos on the dresser, us on our wedding day, on vacations, at family gatherings. They felt like relics from a different life, a life that now felt irrevocably changed. Once I had everything packed, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I couldn't keep living in a state of confusion and hurt. I needed to take control of my life again, and this was the first step. I walked back into the living room, my bag slung over my shoulder. Jenna looked up, and the pain in her eyes cut through me. I'll be in touch, I said, trying to sound strong. She nodded, unable to speak. I walked out the door, and as I stepped into the night, I felt a strange mix of relief and sorrow. Driving away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was leaving a part of myself behind. But I also knew that I had to find my own way forward, to rediscover who I was outside of a relationship that had become so fraught with betrayal. As I entered the hotel, I felt a sense of finality wash over me. I was alone, but I was also determined to start rebuilding my life, one step at a time. I needed this time to heal, to understand what I wanted moving forward. The journey would be long and painful, but I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, even if it felt like I was walking through the darkness. I had to believe that there was light waiting for me at the end. The first few days in the hotel were an odd mix of solitude and reflection. I spent hours staring at the ceiling, the silence almost deafening. I had left behind a life filled with laughter and love, now replaced by an emptiness that rattled me to my core. But as each day passed, I began to feel a flicker of hope. I started journaling to process my emotions, pouring out my thoughts and feelings onto the pages. The act of writing became cathartic, a way to confront the turmoil that had been brewing inside me. I penned everything, my anger, my hurt, my confusion. I wrote about Jenna and the betrayal, but I also began to explore what I wanted for myself moving forward. I reached out to friends, reconnecting with those I hadn't spoken to in a while. They were supportive and understanding, and their encouragement helped me feel less isolated. I began to realize that I wasn't alone in this. Others had faced heartbreak and come out stronger on the other side. It gave me the strength to believe that I could, too. As the weeks rolled on, I found myself slowly reclaiming my identity. I began exercising again, a routine I had neglected during the turmoil of my marriage. I rediscovered hobbies I had put aside, like cooking and painting, and found joy in little things that had once brought me happiness. I even took time to travel to places I had always wanted to visit, small trips to nearby cities, exploring new cafes and parks, allowing myself to breathe again. However, the memories of Jenna lingered. Occasionally, I would find myself scrolling through old photos or remembering inside jokes we shared. But each memory was now tinged with the reality of what had happened. I realized that while the love we had was genuine, it was built on a fragile foundation that ultimately crumbled under the weight of betrayal. One night, I sat down and made a list of the lessons I had learned through this experience. I wrote about the importance of communication in a relationship, the need for honesty and trust, and the necessity of respecting boundaries, something that Jenna had failed to do. I wanted to ensure that I would carry these lessons with me into whatever future relationships awaited me. Eventually, I reached out to Jenna. It was a simple message suggesting we meet to talk. I felt nervous about the impending conversation, but I knew it was necessary to gain closure. When we met at a quiet cafe, I could see the change in her as well. She looked different, weighed down, but also more reflective. "Thank you for meeting me," Jenna said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I've had time to think about everything, and I know how much I hurt you." "Yeah, you did," I replied, keeping my tone even. "But I've also had time to think about what I want moving forward. I understand if you're angry, and I do. Expect forgiveness," she continued, her eyes glistening with tears. "I messed up and I'm truly sorry. I've been working on myself, going to therapy to understand why I did what I did." I appreciated her honesty, but I also felt a sense of resolve wash over me. "I think it's good that you're taking steps to better yourself, Jenna, but I can't go back to what we had. Trust is something that once broken is incredibly hard to rebuild." She nodded, her expression solemn. "I know. I don't want to pressure you into anything. I just wanted you to know that I regret my choices and that I've been trying to change. I hope you find the happiness you're looking for," I said, surprising myself with the sincerity of my words. "I truly do, but I need to focus on my own life right now." We spent a bit more time talking, discussing the past and how we had both changed. It was a bittersweet moment, filled with the remnants of what was once a beautiful relationship. As we parted ways, I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. I had confronted the pain, and while it would always be a part of my story, it no longer defined me. As the months rolled on, I continued to focus on my own growth. I took my time re-entering the dating scene, cautious but open to new experiences. I found someone special, a woman who shared my values and had her own journey of healing. With her, I felt a spark that reignited my hope for love, but it was built on a foundation of respect and honesty. Looking back, I realized that while the experience was painful, it taught me invaluable lessons about love and betrayal. I came to understand that family is not just about blood, but about those who respect boundaries and honor commitments. Blood ties dissolved in betrayal, but true connections can emerge from the ashes of heartbreak. I emerged from this experience stronger and more self-aware, knowing I had the power to shape my own future. As I moved forward, I held on to the lessons learned, ready to embrace whatever came next with an open heart and a newfound strength. I had reclaimed my life, and for that I was grateful.